to my channel. My name is Lynn. I'm glad you're joining me for this little chit chat. And I wanted to talk to you about something so important. At least to me, it's important. And I think if you live by yourself, with a family, without a family, but especially if you lived with someone who has a disability, why is this so important? What is it that we're going to talk about? It's something that's always being talked about, but today I want to bring it back to a real story that just happened this past week and explain why it's important and what can happen if you don't have a stockpile with someone with a disability. So on my main channel, I have talked about this for the last couple of years that I've had the channel. I just think it is essential to have a stockpile in your home. I know people that have years worth of food. I know other people that shop every 2 days and buy food. So I know both extremes, but I live with a family with an elderly person, and I have 2 adults that live in our home that have a disability. And as well as I have someone 20 minutes away that I'm also, I wouldn't say a caregiver, but a care helper, if you would, that I need to help out. So let me explain something that happened. Now, this did not happen directly to me, but I think it's a great example of what can happen and how, you know, life happens. You cannot help things. So on Sunday, my son texted me. He has no heat. Now they have a 10-month-old baby, and it was chilly here in New Jersey. It was 7 degrees. So 7 degrees outside, you can imagine how cold the house is when you have a newborn. My son is also a pastor, so he was on his way to church to preach, and it was like, oh no, what do I do? You know, those kind of moments. Okay, so how does heat have anything to do with stockpile? Hang in there with me. So he went to church, came back, had to report it, you know, working on all the things, blah, blah, blah. So that's Monday. Now comes Tuesday, and the town that I'm in is not a huge town. It is, I would say probably 90% senior citizens that live in my area. We are a big, huge, I don't live in a senior community myself, but there are 90% senior communities in the area that I live in. This is not an area that you want to run out of food, heat, water, or anything like that, because it's seniors for the most part. So it was my day off. I'm going to sleep in, I'm going to relax. And my air purifier turned off in my bedroom, and I looked and I realized our power went out. I'm like, oh, it's my day off. I wanted to sleep in, and I'm like, you know, you get one flush because the power's out, and then the toilets don't work, and I can't have a shower, and you know, my wheels are turning. I better get up and use the bathroom. So I get up, I use the bathroom, I go to wash my hands, and then I thought, oh, it's kind of dark in here because it's early in the morning. Let me flip the light on, not thinking I have no power. And the light came on, and I was like, oh. So I came down, I asked my husband, he said, yeah, the power went out for like 3 or 4 minutes and it came back on. And I thought, that's kind of odd. And, you know, senior community, we get a lot of car accidents, a lot of, you know, that kind of thing. People are always hitting utility poles and transformers are blowing and we lose power. So I texted my son and I said, do you have power? He says, no. So this is 7-ish in the morning. So he hasn't had his heat restored. They had to order a part. So he's got space heaters that he could use in the meantime and live in a, you know, smaller area of the house to have heat, but now he has no power to run the space heaters. Okay, so how long is it going to take? So we, you know, check on the status, and my power came back on. So I must be on a different grid. My son lives a couple blocks away is the best way to explain it. Very, very close. You could walk there. So I look on Facebook and it says 90% of my town is without power and they don't know why. What? 90%? And the next town over, there's a good chunk of people in that area as well. 90%. It's interesting because I have a friend that lives in upper state New York and apparently was on the news that this little town in New Jersey was 90% without power. Again, 7:30 in the morning. power's out. It will be restored by 11 a.m. Okay, not too bad. Now it'll be restored at 12 p.m. Now it'll be restored at 2 in the afternoon. And no, 8 o'clock tonight. Now they're saying at 8 o'clock, it'll be a rolling power return to different areas of our town. Well, I had to go over to work for a little bit and do something, and my son came with me, and I said to him, let's just take a drive through town and see what it looks like, because 90% of the places have no power. We drove. If I didn't know my own town, it was pitch black. Like, I couldn't see where there were houses, stores. We have, again, a senior community. Our grocery store, no power. All of our pharmacies, no power. We have $2 Generals, no power. We have a Wawa. If you don't know what a Wawa is, it's like a 7-Eleven on steroids, but you know, that type of a place. Sheets, some of you have, I don't know. Circle K, there's a bunch of, you know, gas station, little convenience store. Well, this is the hub of our area. You need gas, you need a cup of coffee. Starbucks, no power. Stop and Shop, no power. Nothing. Pizza places, Chinese food, all our little restaurants. We only have a couple, small town, but we have these things. Nothing is open. And I'm like, whoa, I've never seen this before. Like 90%. The last time it was this bad was Superstorm Sandy. Now they don't know when the power's coming on. And they're saying it'll be a rolling time, but they can't predict when. So we drove back home, and I was just in shock, like, wow. So it was the next day, 24 hours later, that the power was restored. Wow. So then the next day rolls around. Christmas Eve is the next day. So remember, my son had no power. I mean, no heat. Then the next day he had no power. These are all unrelated. Now we're on the day 3. We went over and had Christmas Eve morning brunch with my kids at their house. We had a great time, visited the baby. You know, I'll put a picture up here of our family enjoying Christmas festivities in the morning of Christmas Eve. We come home and we've opened our gifts and taken a little nap, and we're getting ready. We're going to go do Chinese food. I've never had this in the 37 years we're married. A Christmas Eve where we're not with 1,000 people. It just seems like we always have so much happening. Exaggeration of 1,000. Just feels like it. Anyway, I get a frantic call from my daughter-in-law. Can you come over right away and watch the baby? We have a flood in the basement. So they went from no heat to no power to a flood in the basement. Everything completely unrelated. I'm like, what? We'll be right over. So we ran over there, shock vac, the whole thing, you know. In all of that, as each thing happened, what came to my mind is this. And I know you hear this over and over by everybody in different forms and strategies. But I live with disabilities in my home. I cannot stress it enough. You must have a stockpile. Now, your disabilities, your situations are not mine, vice versa. So your needs obviously are going to be different. But here's a situation of no heat. My husband has epilepsy. If he has the extreme of cold or extreme of hot in the summer, cold in the winter, that can cause him a seizure. What can I do to have a stockpile of sorts to make sure that if I have no heat, I have some type of a resource that's essential in my home? Have extra blankets, have hand warmers. We have a fireplace behind us. Right now we have just a little electric insert in there, but I have firewood if I had to have a fire. What could you do? What kind of thing? You can't plug in an electric anything in some cases. Now, if it was just the heat and my power was working, we have space heaters we could use, an electric blanket, those types of things. Let's fast forward to the next day. We have no power. Okay, well, what can I do? That means no heat, no electric, no water, no toilets, no anything, and it's 7 degrees. Well, now there's nothing in my area. I need to have those things in my essentials list of things in my stockpile, if you will, of how to heat the home or how to keep warm in the home. Now I need to think through, okay, what about a toilet? I can't flush. Do we have an alternative type of toilet that can be utilized? Do we have flashlights or spotlights or things that can be used now that it's getting dark earlier? It is, what time is it here? It's 4:45 at night, and it's almost dark here in New Jersey. What do you do when the lights go down? What do you have as a resource to see things? Now, nothing's open in my town, so the pharmacies that my husband would have gone to get his pills, do we have enough pills on hand as a stockpile? Now, you can't keep getting prescriptions, but don't let your pills run out, that your last pill and, oh, I'll go out tomorrow and get the next one. Always make sure you have a couple of days' supplies. Do I have gas in the car? The gas stations in our area, how many times are we running on fumes and it's like, I've got to get gas. I'm on fumes. I've been there. Making sure that you have at least a half a tank of gas. Stockpiling is just not a can of tuna. Stockpiling is just not having an extra can of vegetables or soup. Stockpiling is the essentials of your life. How can I provide for myself and my family? And I'm specifically talking to those that have, and you know that I live with disabilities. It is so vital. It is so important. I was removed from it because it was happening to my oldest son, his wife, and his child. But I kept thinking and mulling this over in my head. What would I do if that was me? What would I have done if? Do I have enough? Do I have this? Facebook, somebody said, oh no, the grocery store, Stop and Shop near us, won't be open. And well, the Dollar Generals aren't open. The Wawa's not open. The Dunkin' Donuts, the Starbucks, the restaurants, any place people would have wanted food. And some of these people were putting on our local, Facebook groups, almost in a panic way, that they don't have what they need. Think before these things happen. My son had plenty of formula and baby food and diapers and wipes to be able to make sure his son was provided for. It just made me think through that. I have been saying to myself, I have meat in my freezer. Now, again, this is not everyone. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing, but to maybe trigger some thoughts in your own mind of, well, how could I do it? What could I do different? I like to can, and I have had several meats in my freezer, and I thought, again, 24 hours. You should be able to go, if it's well stocked and well packed, your freezer and fridge, to go 24 hours without opening it before you have a problem. But I just thought to myself, note to self, you have those meats in the freezer. You keep saying you want to can them, so they're in jars, already cooked, so you're not storing extra things in your freezer that you don't need to store. And I thought with that power going out, it just reminded me to make sure that I'm being efficient with what I have. Don't waste money. If you can or dehydrate or freeze dry or whatever you want to do, ferment, there's ways of preserving food. If you can do that with some of your food, do that. First of all, it makes room in your freezer / refrigerator / pantry, as well as it's cooked in a jar, canned for years, that you can leave in a cool, dry place that you can eat right out of there because it's already cooked food. And then he had a flood in his basement. Again, note to self, have I organized my basement efficiently enough? Are my things up and out of the way? Stockpiling, having the essentials in your home, being efficient and fully functioning with everything that you have. We here in New Jersey are headed into winter. It's 7 degrees some days. It's 22 degrees some days. When it hits 32, we're like, heat wave. It's winter. I mean, I can't change that. I've chosen to live here, so that's okay. I've chosen to live in New Jersey, and I know when winter comes, there could be snow, ice, sleet, all the rest. But what am I doing to prepare? I should not be in the dead of winter going, oh, it would be nice if I had a few extra things in the pantry or a few extra blankets. I need to be thinking about that ahead of time. I think a wise woman knows how to build her home. A wise person, a wise man should know how to build their home. You need to do the best you can with what you have. Now, if you can afford to go to the Dollar Tree or Dollar General and that's all you can afford to do, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. You go there and you get your stockpiles. If you can afford better and you can do a little ShopRite or Walmart or Stop and Shop, you do that. If you want to hit the Sam's Clubs and the Costco's and you want to stock up big bulk, you do that. You want to do Azure Standard, whatever you want to do. That's your choice. It's your budget. Making sure you have the a full tank of gas, making sure you have the blankets, making sure you have batteries and flashlights and a alternative to providing heat, an alternative bucket style toilet, if you will. These are things that we all need to think about. We all think it'll happen to the other person. You know, the power will never go out. Who knew 90% of my little tiny dinky town here in New Jersey, which nobody probably has even heard of and even knows is on the map, 90% of everybody lost power. That means no refrigeration, no toilets, no running water. No, you know, do you have water in the house? Not just from the faucet, but do you have spare bottles of water in case things were to happen? You know, just I felt good too that from the mom's perspective that my kids were across the street, down the block, whatever. If they needed something, I had the power. I can invite them in my home for heat, for water. What do you need? I had extras. I have enough here. When I stockpile, I don't stockpile just for my 3. I stockpile for my other 2 kids, my grandson, and my mom. That's my family. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. I am stockpiling most times for 7 people. Because I figured if my mom needed something, she's 20 minutes away, I want to be able to say, no worries. If her grocery store is all shut down today because whatever, not to worry, I have things in my pantry, I'll come over. If my kids needed something, what do you need? Not to worry, I have things in my home. That's how we function as a family. We take care of each other, we look out for each other. That might not be a bad thing for you to do with your neighbor. If your family's not nearby, what if your neighbor was stuck? Do you have things that you can, as a good neighbor, you know, do unto others? Just be a good neighbor, be a good friend, and be able to provide. So especially, I can't say it more, when you have people with disabilities, your needs are different. If you have somebody with a dietary disability, a restriction, that's, you know, really important. Like my daughter, she cannot eat dairy. So don't give her a stick of butter. She's going to have problems, major problems. And then nursing my grandson, he's going to have problems. So she needs to make sure she has things in her stockpile that meet her needs. Is that a disability? Well, it's a dietary restriction. I would say in some ways it is a disability. It's something that you need to bring extra attention to. So having essentials in your home when there's a disability, making sure you're having all those little things thought through are just so important. Who knew? No heat one day, no power for 24 hours, and then a flood in the basement. 3 days in a row. By Christmas Day, they were celebrating. They had heat. They had no flood anymore. That was addressed. And they had power. I mean, it was a humdinger of a holiday around the Wilson households. But I just wanted to come in here and just have a little chat and really say to you, think through these things. Now, instead of winter, you're saying, oh, what am I going to start today? Whatever you can do. Start looking around your house. What do I have? Well, I have 2 flashlights. Great. Do you have batteries? Oh, I have no batteries. Okay, make a list. How about blankets? Do you know where all your blankets are? Do you have things in your home? Maybe you already have a bunch of stuff and you just never thought of it. Go check your stockpile in your pantry. What kind of things do you need? I will be doing something on my main channel about things that are essential that you should be having in your stockpile. Things that you think about on the regular, things that maybe you haven't thought about. We're going to go over some of those basic everyday things that we need. Hey, we're living life on a daily basis. You know what? We need sleep. We need to wake up. We need to exercise. We need to brush our teeth and wash our face. We need to have proper food in the house, healthy food in the house, maybe a few treats once in a while, but to make sure that we have the essentials that we need. So check out my main channel. I'll be doing a video in the next day or 2 on that. Thanks so much for coming over today and listening and chatting with me, letting me in your home. I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you live with somebody with a disability, what are some of the essential things that you make sure you have in your home for your needs specifically? I'd love to hear from you. We'll catch you all on the next video.